set this up. It's been so important to them. And I want to make it clear today that my administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of human trafficking. And I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government to the federal and at the federal level and the other highest levels, whatever we can do in order to solve this horrific problem, getting worse, and it's happening in the United States, in addition to the rest of the world, but it's happening in the United States, which is terrible. Human trafficking is a dire problem, both domestically and internationally, and is one that's made really a challenge, and it's really made possible to a large extent more of a modern phenomenon by what's taking place on the internet, as you probably know. Solving the human trafficking epidemic, which is what it is a priority for my administration. We're going to help out a lot. Solve is a wonderful word, a beautiful word, but I can tell you we're going to help a lot. I'll direct the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and other federal agencies that have a role in preventing human trafficking to take a hard look at the resources and personnel that they're currently devoting to this fight. Now, they are devoting a lot, but we're going to be devoting more. Dedicated men and women across the federal government have focused on this for some time. As you know, a lot of you have been dealing with the federal government, and it's been much more focused over the last 4 weeks, I can tell you that. I cannot thank each of you enough, and the dedicated men and women who run
A warning to viewers, the following images are disturbing. This all began after WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange released hundreds of thousands of secret documents detailing a backstabbing Clinton Foundation, but it now appears the real truth Assange was leading us to was hidden between the blurred lines of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager John Podesta's released emails. Fast forward past John Podesta's brother Tony's casual email exchange with thelemic spirit cooking adherent Marina Abramovic. The Rosetta Stone was needed next, a verification that high-level Washington, D.C. predatory pedophiles were using a code to communicate child sex trafficking as casually as ordering a pizza. An FBI unclassified document from WikiLeaks revealed symbols and logos used by pedophiles to identify sexual preferences, to include those who sexually abuse children, as well as those who produce, distribute, and trade child pornography, are using various types of identification logos or symbols to recognize one another and distinguish their sexual preferences. Investigators should also be attentive to pedophilia symbols advertised on websites. During examinations of computer files, investigators should be conscious of subjects who try to conceal child pornography by labeling them with symbols instead of typical suggestive explicit names. Thus, the interest in code words. Now, clues. The menu from Comet Ping Pong. Notice the symbol of the ping pong paddles and its clever resemblance to the FBI document's symbol for child love. All right, hang on, New York Times. Before you declare this fake news from your ivory tower, now look at the symbol for Besta Pizza, just 2 doors down from Comet Ping Pong Pizza, boldly using the symbol for boy lover as was recorded on the unclassified FBI document. The evidence begins to reveal that Besta Pizza and Comet Ping Pong Pizza may be competing for the lucrative Washington, D.C. pedophile market right out in the open. Comet Ping Pong owner James Alefantis needs to explain himself, and so he did, via the Hillary Clinton colluding New York Times. But so many questions remain unanswered. Why was this said by the band Heavy Breathing performing in Comet Ping Pong?
He likes the world sounds. Tamales.
And little boys.
And children.
I think I was his manager.
No.
We all have preferences.
Why is the artwork adorning Comet Ping Pong's walls at the very least so insanely creepy, especially for a family restaurant? Why is Alefantis so close to Tony Podesta as revealed in the WikiLeaks emails? And why does Mr. Podesta collect questionable artwork specializing in grotesque eroticism and pedophilic images, not to mention Podesta's dabbling in what appears to be cannibalistic rituals while continuing his old friendship with convicted pedophile Dennis Hastert? Why is this man wearing an I Love Children shirt in this situation? Why did you write #murder next to this incredibly creepy photo you posted? Why do you find it amusing that this baby is for sale? Why do you associate with this artist? Why is any of this okay? And if these code words are eventually proven to be just another method of communication, then why did the Podesta emails mention the code word pasta for either little boy or sex 78 times? Code word cheese for little girl 85 times. And what does Podesta's friend Herb mean by this statement from a Podesta email? P.S. Do you think I'll do better playing dominoes on cheese than on pasta? According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the FBI, 460,699 children went missing in 2015 that we know of. Mr. Alefantis, this isn't a witch hunt, and it isn't an attack from fake news that your boyfriend David Brock, founder of Media Matters, would have us all ignore. Either you are the unlucky victim of a fake news onslaught due to your own poorly initiated publicity, or a decades-old pedophile ring operating in the power-hoarding shadows of Washington, D.C. is about to be opened from your front door. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Edit that story, will not cover it, and when they do, they just call it fake news. But this is anything but fake. There appears to be tangible evidence which suggests that there is a pedophile ring in and around Washington, D.C. that includes potentially some of the most powerful people in our government. And to that end, I know you decided to do some research into the question of, are there more missing children in that part of the country versus other parts of the country? And guys, Mark has assembled a shocking document here that breaks down the anomaly in black and white. And just to get this thing started, Mark, I want to share with the audience, Virginia has a population of 8 million people. By contrast, Texas and Florida are double and triple that population. Virginia has more missing children than either Florida or Texas. Where would you like to begin? This is pretty shocking stuff, Mark.
Well, that's correct, Sean. And within Virginia, the missing are concentrated in 3 areas: Fairfax County, right around Richmond, and then the entire Norfolk Island, or Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. And outside of those 3 areas, there's very little in terms of missing kids.
And those areas are right around Washington, D.C. I've been there. I've been in Virginia. I mean, we're talking the belly of the beast here. And according to the chart you sent me here, we have 392 kids missing. Is that just for 2016 alone?
No. The bulk of them are from 2016, 2015, and with majority of those from 2016. All of my numbers came off the Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website. One of the anomalies what got me into this is I wanted to see if there was anything to this Pizzagate thing, and I thought, well, if there's anything going on here, their numbers of missing kids might reflect it. So that's what kicked me off. Okay, throughout the year, the numbers have been ramping up throughout 2016. I don't have the exact numbers for all the kids, but if I include the kids whose photos have been included in their files, it gets even more bleak. So let's start with March. These are only the kids who have no photos attached, which, and for 2016, that is 182 children. That is way higher than the total numbers for most of the other states in the union. So let's start with March. These are kids without photographs attached to their files. March, 5 kids missing. April, 1. May, 6 kids missing. June, 7. July, 3. Those are all numbers that would be normal, fairly normal for a state that size. Let's get into August, 8 kids missing. September, 23 kids missing.
Yeah, and here comes October. Here comes Halloween.
Here comes Halloween, 40 kids missing. And then we move into November, and it looks like they're still at it in November. 74 children missing in November.
That sounds like an epidemic.
And, yeah,
that's really shocking. 74 kids missing in just 1 month in Virginia.
These are only the ones without photographs. I haven't figured in the ones that have photos attached. Like I said, it only gets more bleak once I put in those numbers, which I haven't added up yet because we're talking about so many kids. All
right. Now, just so the audience understands, Mark, you're not just pulling these numbers out of thin air and making them up. I believe some of your sources include fugitivehunter.org and missingkids.com. What other research have you done to compile these numbers?
All of my numbers came off the Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website.
The chart you sent me that I just showed the audience is something you put together. That's not out there for public information that's easily gettable, is it?
No, it's not available at all, which also shocked me. I would think that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children would run a map that was constantly updated so that people would be able to identify pockets of missing kids as they showed up, but nothing like that exists. What the Center for Missing and Exploited Children couldn't explain to me is how they came up with a 95 to 97% recovery rate.
Okay.
So I called them and I'm like, well, I mean, that's a pretty bold statement to say that, you know, from their founding, they're now up to a 95 to 97% recovery rate, and they get a lot of money in donations and stuff. So I was like, well, how do you get that number, and who do I talk to get the recovery rate specifically for Virginia? And nobody knew the answer, and nobody knew where I could go look to even find it.
Hey guys, so people keep asking me for proof that these Podesta emails that contain code words such as hot dog, pizza, cheese, pasta, ice cream, walnut, map, sauce, etc. are actually pedophile code words. Well, I have this proof for you, and I'm going to show you in a minute, but first, you need to understand what the dark web is. So here we have a website explaining what the dark web is. It says there are 2 webs. There's the normal web most people use every day, which is easily accessible and indexed by search engines. Then there's the dark web, hidden websites that won't show up when you search Google and can't be accessed without special software. This is where pedophiles go. I have not been on the dark web, and it's not somewhere that I'm interested in going. But some of the guys who've been researching this have actually gone onto the dark web, and they've actually gone and found forums where people are selling child pornography. And I've purposely censored this because obviously I don't want to give this guy any business because that would be highly unethical. I'm showing you this purely to demonstrate the fact that cheese pizza is a pedophile code word. And I'm going to read this for you now. Hello, cheese pizza lovers. We are offering to send fresh, not seen on Tor before, that's the software they're using to access the dark web, pictures of cheese pizza direct to your email. We will only send to Tor email services. That means stuff that's encrypted and secured so that the FBI can't access it. When we send you email, we will also include a .onion address that has not been seeded / posted to any Tor hidden service directories. So again, they're just talking about how they're going to make it anonymous so that it can't be tracked by the FBI or police or whatever. You can sign up at that address to purchase more fresh pictures of cheese pizza, as well as trade your own for, I think that says Bitcoin. Bitcoin again is an anonymous way of paying for services. It's great for people who use it for good reasons, but there are also people who use it for bad reasons, such as this. Here is how it works. 1. Choose from the menu below and deposit the correct amount into the Bitcoin address. Then they give you a Bitcoin address that I've blacked out. It's anonymized anyway, so it's not like it's useful for anyone to know unless they're a pedophile. Send an email to marios-pizza at, and I've blocked that out. Keep it simple. All we need to know is the Bitcoin address you sent from. We will reply within 1 to 2 hours, our daytime, with an email containing the .onion address and a zip file with 10 pictures. If you purchase more than 10 pictures, we will send more emails. Each email will contain a zip file with another 10 pictures. If your email service rejects the email, your inbox is full, etc., don't worry, we will wait a while and try again until you receive all the pictures you ordered. So for 10 pictures they charge 0.01 Bitcoin, and that's equivalent to about $8 at the moment as I say this. So you get the idea. They're selling pictures of child pornography. Something that you may or may not know is why this is so terrible is because often the child pornography, it's not just of new children, it's of children being raped, it's of children being tortured, it's of really terrible things, even sometimes killing the children. This is actually how bad it is. So by funding this, people actually are funding the rape, kidnapping, trafficking, etc., killing of children. And that is why it's illegal, as it should be. So now you've seen on the dark web, people use these code words. And it's people who have access to the dark web, who are also investigating Pizzagate, who have told us the meaning of these words. So that's how we know it.
Federal agents raided Dojo Pizza. The restaurant's owner is now facing federal charges for allegedly making child pornography. News 4 was the first to bring you the news back in November of an alleged human trafficking ring.
Lauren Kopp is expected to appear in federal court today. Kopp denied accusations of human trafficking when he sat down with us exclusively 2 months ago. But these new federal charges paint a totally different story. News 4's Justin Andrews is live for us from the federal courthouse this morning, tracking it all for us. Justin.
Yeah, Emily, Lauren Kopp is set to be behind these doors at the federal courthouse downtown sometime today. But it was about 5 months ago. I was right on the air as federal agents were raiding his restaurant, Dojo Pizza in Bevo Mill. But I want to go back to show you how we ended up here. You should be looking at video right now. You'll only see right here on News 4. I was right out there. It was late last year when the FBI and other federal agents swept through Dojo Pizza in Bevo Mill. You can see here they're taking out computers and hard drives. According to prosecutors, they found images of child pornography on his hard drive. One victim told authorities she performed a sex act with Kopp. At the same time, St. Louis police were investigating an alleged human trafficking ring after discovering 7 girls under the age of 17 were being housed there. However, Kopp says it was only 4 girls, not 7. We spoke with him 2 months ago, and he denies all human trafficking allegations.
I sit here 4 months later, trying to figure out how to get the girls back out, trying to find a way to get back into the community and work with them, because I haven't human trafficked nobody.
Now, I spoke with Kopp's attorney. We spoke with Kopp's attorney last night. I'm working on putting that story together for 6:30, so stay with us right here on News 4 this morning. We are live downtown at the federal courthouse. I'm Justin Andrews, News 4.
All right, keeping us up to date. Nice work, Justin Andrews.
Born in Belgrade, Serbia, Abramovic is considered the grandmother of performance art. A spirit cooking dinner is an occult ritual started by Abramovic that derives from the religion of Thelema, founded by noted British occultist Satanist Aleister Crowley. Practitioner of the bizarre and gory ceremony mix blood, breast milk, urine, and sperm together and use the mixture to paint messages on the walls. Abramovic allegedly uses pig's blood as a medium to connect the spirit world with the material world. In Thelema, spirit cooking is considered a sacrament meant to symbolize the union between the microcosm, man, and the macrocosm, the divine, which is a representation of one of the prime maxims in Hermeticism. The ritual takes place in the kitchen, which is considered the heart of the home. The goal of the ceremony is to convert matter into energy so spirits can feed on it. Marina derives her inspiration from the popular belief that the spirits still need food even though it is no longer solid, but in the form of light, sound, and emotions. In the video dated from 1997 called Spirit Cooking, Marina is seen writing in blood various statements, including mix fresh breast milk with fresh sperm, fresh morning urine sprinkled over nightmare dreams, and with a sharp knife, cut deeply into your middle finger and eat the pain. The video shows spirit cooking appearing to be in combination of an artistic performance and an occult ceremony.
Bekleidet, aber nicht weniger auffällig taucht dann ein Superstar auf. Lady Gaga. Ob das hier Verhüllungskunst oder Kamerascheu ist, wissen wir nicht. Doch Gaga macht eine gute Figur. Nach ihrer Hüft-OP ist das ihr erster Auftritt in der Öffentlichkeit. Das Essen im Krankenhaus war wohl nicht sonderlich gut. Genüsslich löffelt sie Sojasauce von einem Nacktmodell. Die Popsängerin scheint voll in ihrem Element. Wie in Trance lauscht sie dem Ruf des Waldes. Wieder aus der Trance erwacht, lächelt sie mit Gastgeber Robert Wilson um die Wette. Er hat auch allen Grund zum Lachen. Schließlich war seine nackte Charity-Gartenparty ein voller Erfolg. Satte 1,8
Marina Abramovich, grandmother of the performance art movement and a modern adherent to ceremonial magic found in Aleister Crowley's religion, Thelema, wrote a very personal email to Tony Podesta, according to WikiLeaks. It reads, "Dear Tony, I am so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you will be able to let me know if your brother is joining?" Tony Podesta, regarded as the most powerful lobbyist in Washington, D.C., is a brother to none other than John Podesta, chairman of the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign and counselor to President Obama. That dinner Abramovich spoke of was nothing less than a Thelemic occult ritual. In spirit cooking, Marina uses pig's blood, which most resembles human blood, as a medium to connect the spirit world with the material world. The ritual takes place in the kitchen, which is considered to be the heart of the home. The goal of the ceremony is to convert matter into energy so spirits can feed on it. Marina derives her inspiration from the popular belief that spirits still need food, even though it is no longer solid but in the form of light, sound, and emotions. This simple revelation may finally pull back the curtain to the masses on the ugly truth InfoWars and others have been desperately trying to tell the masses for years. The occult is the religion of the elite. Just research the influence of Lucius Trust in the United Nations, or review the 1990 Nebraska U.S. District Court case between Paul A. Baraki versus Lawrence E. King, exposing a powerful pedophile ring linked to political figures, high-level U.S. military commanders, and the intelligence establishment. All of this overseen by Temple of Set founder and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton live in this dark world. Bill Clinton wrote in his biography that the brief foray into the world of voodoo furthered his fascination with the way different cultures try to make sense of life, nature, and the virtually universal belief that there is a non-physical spirit force at work in the world. Back in September 16, 2016, Fox News posted a letter from hacker Guccifer, claiming the goal of the Guccifer project failed because he was unable to fully expose the Illuminati, the Council, and their crimes. He writes, "Hillary Rodham Diane Clinton is one of the high priests, a goddess of this occult satanic shadow group. One must see their evil and profoundly corrupt nature to understand what I am talking about." Guccifer continues, "So I apologize in front of the unknown soldiers who struggle to take this fight against these monsters to a glorious end. Many of them are risking their lives while doing this behind the computer screens, from inside or outside the system." And now bombshell revelations are surfacing from Anthony Weiner's recovered laptop as the New York Police Department is investigating allegations that Bill Clinton performed sexual acts on underage girls as young as 5 years old. In the coming days, right up to the election, Anthony Weiner's laptop will reveal evidence of an international child sex trafficking ring tied to Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton.
She's worked like a demon, as you know, as Secretary of State and as a senator and in the years since.
One thing about Hillary, Bill was just a good timing guy. But Hillary, she's an animal. Hillary is the one that I promise you, she pulls the strings. She pulled them in Arkansas. She pulled them in the White House when she was there as the First Lady. And my God, if she gets to be president, what you see out here now is going to change. We thought it changed with Obama. That's nothing compared to what's going to happen with Hillary.
I'm Sarah Hashimoris in the Los Angeles Times newsroom. The man accusing X-Men director Bryan Singer of sexual abuse has filed additional cases against 3 Hollywood execs. 31-year-old Michael Egan's attorney this week filed complaints against television executive Garth Ancier. He's held senior positions at Fox and NBC. Former senior Walt Disney executive David Newman and Gary Goddard, the founder of a firm that designs theme park attractions. The lawsuits accuse the 3 of intentional infliction of emotional distress, battery, assault, and invasion of privacy. Meanwhile, Singer was publicly accused in a federal lawsuit of drugging and sexually assaulting Egan in the 90s when he was just 15 years old.
Corey Feldman has no idea what it's like not to be famous. He was just 3 years old in this McDonald's commercial.
McDonald's gift certificates. I literally was famous before I knew my own name.
His roles defined the 80s. Goonies.
This was my dream, my wish.
Stand By Me.
You call my dad a loony again, and I'll kill you.
License to Drive.
The only difference between you and that greaseball is that he has a license and you don't.
Films that propelled him into the spotlight for his entire youth. But being famous so young, he says, caused serious damage to him and his friends.
Do you feel like you missed out on a normal childhood?
What childhood? I don't know what that means.
A lost childhood and a loss of innocence. He blames the adults, not just those looking to profit from charming children, but also some with far more sinister motives.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh, yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures.
Vultures who Feldman says abused him and his best friend, the late child actor Corey Haim, his co-star in The Lost Boys.
Well, what happens if my mom is dating the head vampire?
Feldman says the trauma of that pedophilia contributed to Haim's death.
There's one person to blame in the death of Corey Haim, and that person happens to be a Hollywood mogul. And that person needs to be exposed, but unfortunately I can't be the one to do it. But the person that knows who did it and knows who he is watching right now, I guarantee you. Yeah.
Intriguing.
Yeah. There was a circle of older men that surrounded themselves around this group of kids. And they all had either their own power or connections to great power in the entertainment industry.
Feldman won't name names. And he admits his friend had a struggle with addiction, which he says was a mechanism to cope with his demons.
It was a symptom.
It was a symptom, correct.
Are we in it?
In 2008, the two Coreys confronted each other on their reality show about the dark past they shared.
You let me get around in my life, man, raped, so to speak, when I was about 14 and a half, and I'm saying this right now. What'd you do, man, when you saw that going down when I was 14 to me? What'd you do? You knew about it.
You want to talk about the truth? Okay, well then let's talk about the truth. I was being molested at the same time by somebody else. What'd you do? You know, there's a lot of good people in this industry, but there's also a lot of really, really sick, corrupt people in this industry. And there are people in this industry who have gotten away with it for so long that they feel they're above the law. And that's got to change. That's got to stop.
Elijah Wood's shocking allegations against the entertainment industry. In a new interview with the Sunday Times, the former child star alleges that pedophilia has been a real issue in Hollywood. He tells the publication, quote, "There are a lot of vipers in this industry, people who only have their own interests in mind. What bums me about these situations is that the victims can't speak as loudly as the people in power. That's the tragedy of attempting to reveal what is happening to innocent people. They can be squashed, but their lives have been irreparably damaged." The 35-year-old adds, "If you're innocent, you have very little knowledge of the world and you want to succeed. People with parasitic interests will see you as their prey."
I can get a good career doing this. You know, it's going to be good.
Wood says he was not a victim of abuse because his mother Deborah protected him and he avoided those kinds of situations. He goes on to allege that even as an adult in the industry, he has been, quote, led down dark paths to realize that these things probably are still happening.
I laid there on the floor. Chris was on the bed. Marcus was right there next to me. Once he tried to penetrate me, and then I told him I was bleeding. I said, it hurts. Wow, what the fuck? It hurt, dude. It hurt. It hurt me. I'm a kid. So he was like telling me that it's okay. So I was like, okay, it's okay. You put a dick in my booty hole, bro. And fuck me, my nigga. With Chris laying on the bed, watching with the big ass polo, teddy bear, and the big ass pillows on the bed. Fucking me. And watching. That shit not cool, bro.
Are you talking about the same room with the burgundy stuff in there?
What?
Was at the time when you was in the room, was the couch like red burgundy, like the burgundy couch? Was it burgundy? No, it was blue.
It was his bedroom.
Chris's room.
I was laying outside the bedroom. I was in Chris's bedroom. He had big ass polo pillows, and he had a polo teddy bear with a polo shirt on the teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was laying out.
Are you talking about did Chris have? Are you talking about that wooden bed Chris had, that real high wooden bed?
Yes, nigga.
Yeah, I know about that bed. Hey, on the side of that bed, on the left of it, was that little glass jar with the change in it, and the little like futon? Was there a little?
How do you know about that? Because you were younger than me.
Huh?
How do you know about that? I said, how do you know about that? You were younger than me, so how do you know about that?
Quentin, I'm trying to tell you, I walked through the same thing what you walked through. That first time that Marcus ever put his dick in my booty was in that. It was in that room too. Got you. No, I got you, Ray.
When you gonna do that though, right?
Well, I got another big interview coming up. So my next real big interview, I'll set the record straight. It's amazing how the media is trying to tear the situation up, because I never even said anything along the lines where people could even get the idea. Well, we should. Ray, I've been trying to work with you for years, my nigga. You're in a position to actually really do some things for me.
I know, but what I'm saying, Raz, like, you can even get your own reality show.
So Ray, nigga, I got you. Whatever.
I need you to rephrase that shit, Raz. Like, you got niggas that hit me every day, Puffy, everybody, Jay-Z, everybody calling you.
Done. I got you. I got you. I got you, Ray, and I need you to have me too, because I think
Because it's like, damn, like, you didn't even really have to mention a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really didn't even have to mention a nigga. But I know what you were saying, though. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I respect you, Ray. Nah, I would never want to disrespect you, your mom, or your sister.
But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But, and I talked to that, guess who else I talked to tonight?
Who?
Talked to Marcus Houston tonight, nigga.
What that nigga had to say?
He was just like trying to eat and deny the shit, dog. Wow. He did not deny it, man. I didn't ask him for the truth, and he was like, just like, not saying it wasn't.
Oh, Leanne. I was almost going to call you Lori. How could I miss? Oh, it's very easy. You're both very pretty. You have green eyes.
Blue.
Are they? They're not blue. Now, don't tell me that. Look at me a little closer. They're green. It's not cool, dear. Your little kisses, Jennifer. You look like a young lady who likes to give lots of hugs and kisses out, do you? Hey? Hey?
Not really.
Not really. Not really. Can I have a hug and a kiss? I can't have one?
Mm-mm.
Even if I say and whisper in your ear that, Allison, you're gonna win the show, I still can't have a hug and a kiss? Well, I guess you can't win the show then. If I don't get a hug and a kiss. Yeah, you hear that? Yeah.
A more heart-wrenching testimony in the sex abuse trial of former Penn State assistant football coach Jerry Sandusky.
The grand jury report is filled with details from each accuser alleging how and when Sandusky allegedly victimized them.
The former Penn State assistant football coach is charged with sexually abusing 10 boys over a 15-year period, faces 52 counts.
The report details accusations that Sandusky would take his hands and place them on their thighs as they were driving in the car, that he would tickle them and blow on their stomachs at bedtime, would shower naked with them, and would rape them.
Disturbing graphic day in court. 3 young victims described their alleged sexual abuse, torment at the hands of famous Penn State assistant coach Jerry Sandusky. Sandusky charged with 52 charges of abuse of 10 boys over 15 years today in court. Unbelievable. He faced victims number 1075. These young men describing years of sick abuse and sick rituals that he used when they were boys before allegedly attacking them. One accuser said Sandusky threatened, quote, that if anybody were told he would never see his family again. I would never see my family again if I spoke of what was going on. Imagine that to a little boy. The jurors finally listening to the interview Jerry Sandusky gave right after he was arrested when he admitted to horsing around and showering with boys. This from NBC.
I have horsed around with kids. I have showered after workouts. I have hugged them, and I have touched their leg without intent of sexual contact.
Swearing in is taking place in the old Senate chamber.
Come on, you jump in here. Where do you want to go?
Want it here.
Huh?
Just
This? Right.
Did you want to go vice president?
There we go.
Come on, you jump in here. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Huh? Just this? Right. Did you want to go vice president? There we go. It's okay.
Can I have one with Jess alone? Very good.
Can I have one with Jess alone? Very good.
Dad's going to stand pretty close.
Mom, Dad, while I'm walking.
Okay.
That's right, anybody?
Don't tell me what. All right, here we go. Here we go. Up to enter, so help you God. I do. That was out my mind. Appreciate it. This is so nice to see you, baby. How old are you now?
13. My dad and stepmom and brother got cut off there.
Oh,
So
come
our-
on. Let's get in here again. How are you? Good to see you, Dad.
Maggie, do you want to come over here?
Come on, man. Make me look better. There we go.
Thank you.
You got to look up at the center photographer up top of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, nice to see you guys. Thank you. See you back home, I hope. Well, you want your daughter to hold the Bible? You jump in the middle, Angel. You come right on this side of Mommy. No, you come over here. That's it. Keep going. You're going to stand right next to me. There you go. And then we're going to have
There you go.
Daddy put his left hand in the Bible if he can reach it, and repeat, not repeat it. We're just going to, hey, man, here we go. You ready? Do you solemnly swear to support? God love you. You're a lucky man. Lucky man.
He's having fun. Thank you, sir.
No serious guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What a beautiful thing. That's how old my children are.
Very good.
That'd be great.
Come on, slide across. We'll get everybody in. We're going to switch here. You two come here.
There we go.
You got it? Okay.
And the people in the back, you can spread out a little bit, like that gentleman can spread out.
Okay.
And the people in the back, you can spread out a little bit, like that gentleman can spread out. And the people in the back, you can spread out a little bit, like that gentleman can spread out.
You can hold the Bible. Hang it down.
We're going to look up the photographer up top.
Oh, there it is.
Everybody else is looking forward to it.
Of course I would.
She couldn't make it.
What's her name? Come on. Okay, here we go. You ready? What a beautiful thing. All right, here we go. All right, we got up top here. Look up there. Okay, out there.
Great. Okay, I got some more family people. Come on in. You haven't got a crowd. Sure.
Okay.
Someone go behind there. Go behind the fence. See, that's it.
I don't know about you, buddy, but all the women provide.
Can we get one of them
Yes, she is.
Is that the Bible?
Oh, here. Why don't we? You get here.
I'm glad you're directing all of me. Can we get one?
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
Come on, let's get some on this side. Yep. I know I'm a Democrat, but I'm okay. So come on over. The balance is off.
I think you know how much it means to me to have you where we are today, and confidence. We've got a lot of thanks to give out here.
These are some of the 33 Haitian children an American Baptist group allegedly tried to unlawfully take out of the country on Saturday. Orphans and abandoned children, victims of the earthquake, some as young as 2 months old. The Haitian authorities stopped the bus they were on as they were about to cross into neighboring Dominican Republic. With them were 10 Americans. They are now in police custody. And they reportedly say they were planning to set up an orphanage for the children in the Dominican Republic.
Our understanding was that we were told by a number of people, including Dominican authorities, that we would be able to bring the children across. I understand that. Sir, that's the mistake obviously we made, is we did not understand that there was additional paperwork required.
The group insists this was an act of charity, not profit, with the consent of the children's families.
I saw that family members were giving them away because the parents were dead, and the family members couldn't support them, so the families were giving their children up so they could be cared for and to study.
The earthquake has left tens of thousands of children homeless, and the chaos it brought makes Haiti ripe for human trafficking. That's why the government imposed tight restrictions on adoption earlier this month. Restrictions it says the American group has violated. Zaina Awad, Al Jazeera.
A mover and shaker in Oregon's political scene is facing serious sex charges tonight.
According to police, Terry Bean targeted a teenage boy, but Bean says he's the victim. KGW's Pat Dorse is in the newsroom to help sort it all out. Pat?
Joe, Mr. Bean is well known amongst the movers and shakers in the Democratic Party. Willamette Week reported Bean raised significant amounts of money for President Obama's campaign. Take a look at the pictures we found online, and you can tell he has access to the highest levels of power, from the President to the Attorney General and the Secretary of State. But police say they have evidence that a grand jury agreed should result in an indictment against Bean. He's charged with 2 counts of sodomy in the 3rd degree and 1 count of sex abuse in the 3rd degree. A police spokesman said the charges come after months of investigation and are not issued lightly.
This is a high-profile individual by many accounts, and our agency takes great care and caution in making sure, as we go forward in an investigation like this, to do everything right.
Bean's attorney issued a statement today saying he's the focus of an extortion attempt and that no allegations against Terry Bean should be taken at face value. The prosecutor has sealed the documents in this case, including search warrants and probable cause statements, because the investigation is not over and may bring other developments. Besides his political contributions, Mr. Bean helped start the Human Rights Campaign and the Gay and Lesbian Fund. He bailed out of jail just before 4:30 tonight. Back to you.
A Northern Virginia mayor is facing time in prison for drugs in a meth for sex sting operation. R. Scott Silverthorne of Fairfax was arrested on Thursday after meeting undercover detectives at a hotel. Police suspected a meth for sex operation between men, and an undercover detective created a profile on the site, and police said within days the suspect, who turned out to be Silverthorne, made contact. Detectives also found Silverthorne's suppliers, Juan Jose Fernandez, 34, and Costin Lee McLaughlin, 21, of Maryland. Silverthorne was reelected in May for a 3rd term of the city west of Washington, D.C.
And if Washington doesn't have enough to talk about these days, the Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring. The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year. The White House press secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, said he knew nothing of this investigation. NBC's Lisa Myers reports her sources in the U.S. Attorney's Office say the investigation is not focusing on prostitution, but on fraud involving the use of credit cards to pay for the call boy services.
Gregory, are the Masons an avenue that needs to be investigated?
Masons definitely need to be investigated, especially in North Wales. I think nearly everyone, especially on the list that I have, are all members of some sort of Masonic lodge.
The Prime Minister's spoken today about the danger of a witch hunt, and you've got to say that a lot of these allegations relate to many decades ago. You're relying on people's memories. How much of a concern do you think that is?
I don't think it'll ever turn into a witch hunt. I hope it doesn't, but we are getting people coming forward, really upset people.
So you think it's the scale of allegations about the past that is emerging now? It's not a witch hunt, but it's just the scale of people who've been affected by this that you're interested in?
Yeah, it is. It's genuine, honest people coming forward with a story to tell, which they were never allowed to do last time.
Bill Burton, you think there's a danger of witch hunt?
Well, I think any society should be judged how it deals with vulnerable people. And as I understand it, the Prime Minister said something about gays. This isn't about gays, it's about paedophilia, which is, it's a completely different issue. Two consenting adults, fine. But, this is not that. And I think, it's the test of society is how we deal with people who are vulnerable. And these were vulnerable people, and they weren't treated properly, and they should be.
Bill Burton, Keith Gregory, thank you very much for joining me.
One last question. I read a Washington Times article many years ago where you had a comment about the organization, and then now it's been in the Wall Street Journal, it's been in a lot of different newspapers, and that's the Bohemian Grove. And back in, 1996, when you joined as a Clinton advisor, the Republicans were criticizing you, what about Bohemian Grove? And then you countered them by saying, hey, I don't run around in the woods naked. What did that mean? Here is the before-mentioned Washington Times article where he said, I didn't run around naked like they do.
I don't know what quote you're referring to. I'm not aware of any quote like that. Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you. Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care? Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about. Really? That's right. Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV. Well, I disrespect you for that. You do? I do. But it's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know? I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that. Really? But we have public officials I'm sorry, you took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there? No. Did you crash it? Yes. Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it? No, they put them up after. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understandings. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do. But what about the ritual? Is the ritual gentlemanly? Sir, everything. I don't owe you this comment. I know. I appreciate it. This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye. The ritual? That's none of your damn business.
But if you go back even further, when Clinton was the president, Bill Clinton, APEC in the Pacific Northwest, meeting in Seattle, hosted by President Clinton, 1993. Summit meeting of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation countries. The FBI, the intelligence agency, bugged every room. They had every member of that committee, that commission, that conference under physical and electronic surveillance. Would that surprise you? No, of course not. But writes Timothy Mayer in Insight on the News publication. May I remind you, again, Insight on the News is the publication. The date is September 29th, 1997. He writes about this. He writes about the bugging, but that's not the story. He writes this, but what does come as a surprise is an apparent failure by federal law enforcement and intelligence authorities to pursue allegations, now listen to this, of kickbacks to the FBI agents involved in the sweeping intelligence operation, and, now here's the money part, and separate allegations involving underage boys provided as prostitutes to visiting dignitaries attending the week-long conference. of APEC, the 15 APEC nations. Let that sink in for a second. It didn't even create a blip back in 93, and certainly not in 97 when it was published. So you've got all of this surveillance being conducted, electronic surveillance of these diplomats, these people from other countries, and even members of our own government in Seattle meeting for APEC in the fall of 93. 97 it comes out, look, we had you all bugged, everything was under surveillance. Now, you've got a failure by law enforcement, or perhaps this is not a failure, this is an intentional device by law enforcement, not to pursue allegations of kickbacks to the FBI agents involved in the sweeping intelligence operation. In other words, the FBI agents got money, kickbacks, and other favors. And also, there were separate allegations involving underage boys provided as prostitutes to visiting dignitaries and others during that conference.
A Republican from the Midwest, Lawrence E. King, is serving a 15-year prison sentence for a multi-million-dollar fraud. But financial crime is only half the story. This is the true story of Lawrence King. It is the story of an evil at the heart of America, of a cover-up at the highest level. One man is attempting to uncover the full story. John DeCamp is among the most highly decorated Vietnam veterans. A former Republican state senator in Lincoln, Nebraska, he is now a lawyer fighting the legacy of Lawrence King's evil network.
It's a web of intrigue that starts in our Holy of Holies, Boys Town, Nebraska, one of the most respected institutions in the United States, and spreads out like a spider web to Washington, D.C., right up to the steps of the nation's capital, the steps of the White House, involves some of the most respected and powerful and richest businessmen in this United States of America. And the centerpiece of the entire web is the use of children for sex and drug dealing and drug couriers, the compromising of politicians, the compromising of businessmen, but worst of all, the corruption of key institutions of government that have the duty and responsibility to make sure these things never happen.
Kindness and love will open the heart of any problem boy. That heart will melt within the warmth of the sunshine of love. I have really never found a boy who wanted to be bad.
Mal Burrows was 12 years old when he was placed at Boys Town in 1981 after his mother was murdered by his father.
This is your file from Boys Town.
Yeah.
The 15th of March 1983. It's a Boys Town hospital referral. You were sent to hospital on this occasion?
Yeah.
And it mentions stomach pains. What happened there?
I was raped. Spoke with then director, Brother Paul Smith.
I think it's terribly important to be loved. And I think the boys who leave Boys Town can honestly say that at least they know they are lovable. And that's important.
How many of you were sexually abused at Boys Town? We'll uncover an abuse scandal that darkens a respected Catholic institution.
That there had been some, and my lawsuit against the Catholic Archdiocese, the Catholic Church, was the first in the United States, I repeat, was the first in the United States that actually identified this problem of priests having pedophilia problems.
He's going to be one of the largest child abuse cases in history.
I meet with Cardinal Ratzinger, and to my surprise and shock, he didn't try to defend or deny. He said, yes, we know all about this problem.
We were appalled. It was incredible. It's incredible what these kids went through, I think.
I was shocked when I walked in. There was a kid, I would say about 15 years old, out in the middle of the room. One guy was standing in front of him. He was bent over, and the other guy was like reaching under him, playing with his nipples, while a guy whom Jeff told me was a police officer shoving beads up his rectum.
The police officer was shoving beads up his rectum?
Yes.
Everything, I mean, from just, touching to, fruit, squash, huge squash, that big around, stuck into your ass, heat things, hot things, poked at you and stuck in you, I got those scars on my arm one night at a party where Larry King was, and he had brought somebody, I don't clearly remember who it was, wanted to see how strong a men we were or something, and have us push our arms together, and you push your arms together. King has these same scars, and you push them tight together, and then you light cigarettes, and as soon as you get burning, you just drop them down between your arms, and let it burn. And they made us stand there naked and touch each other by holding our arms together and burn cigarettes. It's on film someplace. I mean, they filmed it, burning,
And those of us that didn't like to be involved and didn't want to be involved were threatened.
And who would do these threatening remarks?
Larry King.
You think Larry King personally did?
I think he did. And when they threatened, that I can go find somebody that will kill you, and it will kill your family, he didn't tell anybody.
Larry King was also here. He came in and we drank and did cocaine. I didn't do much. He turned me on to it, Larry King did.
He didn't like me because, I would get high on drugs, and I would question him about, how can you do that? I mean, once I asked him, he wanted me to shit on him, urinate on him, and I did, but gladly. I even said to him, you stupid fucker. I just sit in here paying me money. How can you get into that, And I got, beat up by it. I came home here a lot of times beat to shit from, misspeaking my tongue, so to speak, and, just telling him how I felt sometimes.
According to the report by London's Metropolitan Police and a child protection charity, Saville used his celebrity status to hide in plain sight. Police say they are aware of 214 criminal offenses recorded against him. Saville was never brought to justice, and his victims have been left looking for some kind of resolution. CNN's Matthew Chance has been hearing all the details of the investigation. He joins us now from police headquarters, Scotland Yard. Matthew, what more does that report reveal?
Well, it reveals quite a lot. One of the issues you just brought up is, of course, that Jimmy Savile is dead. There isn't going to be a criminal prosecution against him. And this report, which I've got in my hand here, called Giving Victims a Voice, is an attempt by the police here in London that have been leading this investigation into the goings-on of Jimmy Savile, say that it's their attempt to try and at least get down in document form all of these testimonies that they've received over this period of more than 50 years. From 1955 to 2009, they've been hearing evidence from people who say they were abused during that period. 450 complaints in total so far made against Jimmy Savile.
I'll tell you something. The fella could get used to all this. I think he really could get used to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, all we can say is good night
from all of us here on Top of the Pops, and it's #1 time, and of course, if you believe me now, it's from the one and only Chicago. And thank you very much indeed.
I was angry at my mother for years till I met her. And then she told me she was forced to. It was in the Indian Act. The cops came there and they were going to take us, or she'd go to jail, be fined, or all three. And that's in the Indian Act too, it is. It's in the Indian Act.
The Indian Act of Canada is race-based legislation that legally separates Indigenous people into a separate and inferior class of citizenship under the control of one man, the Federal Minister of Indian Affairs. The Indian Act allows Aboriginal people to be expelled from their homes on reserve lands, arbitrarily jailed, subjected to involuntary medical treatment, and denied the right to elect their own leaders. Under the Indian Act, Native people are legal wards of the Canadian state in perpetuity, having the same status as children or the mentally incompetent. This racist legislation has remained essentially unchanged since it was first enacted in 1876. Its philosophy and regulations were drafted under the guidance of the Roman Catholic and Anglican churches through the Bagot Commission created by the Vatican in 1845.
One particular incident was where a nun sexually abused a young boy, and as a result the nun became pregnant and gave birth to a baby, and after it gave birth to the baby, this was one incident that they killed the baby, and they had the young fella dig a grave for the baby. Another incident was a lady witnessed a nun in Cranbrook where they gave a baby and had her participate in drowning the baby in the bucket of water.
At age 5, I was kidnapped by terrorists in a gunboat. The RCMP had this gunboat. It was a RCMP boat with a gun mounted on it to gather children from villages.
We were segregated right from the day one. I remember in September we were all on a beach and we were all given numbers.
When I first got to school in Cranbrook, we were all given a number. My number was 54, and my underwear, my socks, my uniform, my towels, everything that I had a number. It was 54 on there. And all the girls had their own numbers. And if you were caught with somebody else's number, you got whipped for that.
So I watched, and she was standing at the top of the stairs, and he kicked her. She went rolling downstairs. She ended up, she was laying like this. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't moving. She wasn't crying. So I see that all the time.
Her name was Maggie. She was 2 years older than me. And she was murdered in there by a nun. She pushed out the window, second story up, and she died. But nothing was done about it. We weren't allowed to see a lawyer or nothing. They just covered this up.
Jenny wouldn't cry out, and then all of a sudden, this blood just spurted all over the place, and it was on her back, and a small part of her back here. okay. Oh, God. This is the last time I ever saw my sister.
On Fox 5, former state senator Nancy Schaefer and her husband Bruce were found dead today at their Havisham County home.
Fox 5's Justin Gray is here now with more. Justin?
Yeah, Russ, former state senator Nancy Schaefer was well known for championing conservative causes. Tonight, GBI crime scene investigators are at her Northeast Georgia home. They're searching for clues that might tell them what led to the sudden and violent deaths of Miss Schaefer and her husband.
The case of Senator Nancy Schaefer. Who was Senator Nancy Schaefer? A Republican member of the Georgia Senate, Nancy worked to stop the North American Union and was against the TTP. Shortly before her death, she published a paper called The Corrupt Business of Child Protective Services. She died under suspicious circumstances in 2010. Nancy died aged 73 on the 26th of March 2010, shot by an unlicensed gun in the back while sleeping. Her husband, Bruce Schaefer, was shot by the same gun in the chest. Mainstream media and later the police announced it was a murder-suicide perpetrated by her husband. What we know: months before Nancy's death, she started using throwaway cell phones because she suspected hers were being tapped. Nancy and her husband Bruce were devout Christians with loving family and grandchildren. Even long after their deaths, friends and family were reportedly too afraid to talk to journalists about what happened. One of her acquaintances revealed that Nancy feared for her life and avoided traveling to Washington, D.C. as a precaution. This is what Nancy Schaefer wanted you to know. Nancy was in the process of publishing a book revealing how Child Protective Services were making money off foster children. Nancy's concern was that the CPS workers were taking kids from healthy families to adopt out for financial gain. In one speech, she said social workers are very often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence. The federal government and state of Georgia offer financial incentives and targets for child adoption. Nancy talks about how they offer cash bonuses. Some counties offer $4,000 to $6,000 for each child adopted out to strangers.
The Nazis had CPS. That's how they started grabbing people's kids. The year Hitler was elected in 1933, he was a eugenicist. We'll be right back with the senator. Stay with us. Okay, Senator, what are solutions to fight these demons? I mean, we just get the public educated, what we're doing now, about their rights, get bigger organizations together to fight them, Congress, state laws, because we always push to get state laws to stop them, and they always take it over and get more power out of us trying to lobby to reform. How do we beat pure evil?
Very, very strong bill that I introduced to correct it here in the state of Georgia, and of course that bill was defeated. I also had several parents lined up to come down and do a video, and the video was defeated. And then, of course, I lost my Senate seat. So there's a huge battle over this, and many states don't want to let that money go that they've gotten used to. And one thing we haven't mentioned that I'd like to bring out is how huge the bureaucracy is. It is made up of caseworkers and social workers and attorneys and guardian ad litem and judges and psychiatrists and psychologists, and it goes on and on. The bureaucracy is huge, made up of people who look to the children in Child Protective Services for their job security. And none of these people want to let this be brought to an end.
In fact,
this is where they get their paycheck.